Achieving self-sufficiency in food, energy and water, even for a small amount of time, is a huge mountain to climb in today's world. I'm here to show you how to break that down using the SmartFew drills. Okay, let's get right into it. Let's lay out food, energy and water against a few different timescales. Let's start at 3 hours, consider 3 days and 3 weeks. That'll do for now. Later in the channel, we'll expand this out to the rest of the SmartFew factors: shelter, medicine, air, recycling, transport, but also longer time frames such as 3 months, 3 years and so forth. But for now, let's focus in on food, energy and water for 3 hours, 3 days, and we may even touch on 3 weeks. So we break the problem of becoming self-sufficient in these crucial factors down into timescales, one factor at a time, one timescale at a time. For example, let's take power. Let's turn our power off for 3 hours. I'll show you in a minute later in the video a little bit more about the specifics of this, and then let's see what happens. Let's make sure it works. Let's make sure we know where our breaker is. Let's make sure we understand what circuits go off, what don't, what happens when they come back on, what might need protecting with uninterruptible power, and so forth. And then let's do the same for water for just 3 hours. Then we can move on to longer time frames. So far what we have done is we've done power for 3 months, and much more about that later in the channel, and we've done water for just 3 days. So in the next segment of the video, I'm going to go to the water supply and to the circuit breaker box, and we're going to turn things off and see what happens. So when it comes to turning off the water here in my property, I'm in a skanky corner where these things normally are. I have a blue poly pipe coming out of the ground here, and before any junctions in the pipe, I have what's called a ball valve. These types of valve go through 90 degrees. When you turn it off, I tend to turn it off slowly to prevent something called water hammer. That's where the momentum of the water suddenly hitting a closed valve can cause a lot of shock on the system. So close it slowly, and that's it. It's now closed, and you go to your taps and verify that's the case. You might have a gate valve, one where you have to wind a gate open like this, like a poor cutlass on an old castle or something. Again, just keep winding until the water stops. So that's obviously very simply how you turn your valve off. The great thing here is you want to know where this is in your house, because you don't want to find out where this is during an emergency. If a pipe bursts, you're going to want to get this thing closed pretty quickly. So that's shutting off the main supply. There might be more than one supply in your property as well, but that's quite rare. So turning off the main supply, let's come to the kitchen tap first. Initially, it runs for a second, but then the flow rate reduces. Now, I've got levels above this building fed off there, so there's water in pipes above this tap. So it's going to take a little while for all that water to drain out of this kitchen tap. But you can see it's definitely on a dying streak here. So we have turned the water off, and this is the effect you have on the kitchen tap and on any other tap that's directly fed, and then that's all water that's probably safe for me to drink. But let's go look at a tap in the bathroom and see what that's like. So here we are at the bathroom tap. Let's have a look at this one. Now what we're going to find here is that it ain't going to stop flowing for a long time. And that's because up above me is a skanky, word defined for you Americans below, header tank full of probably dead mice and certainly hundreds and hundreds of litres, tens and tens and tens of gallons of water. So this is going to keep running until that tank runs out. So firstly, great. If you have a period where you don't have any water, this thing is great. But don't drink it. So once I turned my water off, the first thing I found is I came to pour myself a glass of water from this filter tap, and nada, nothing, nout, coming out. Of course, this is the first time that the handy water bottle comes in. Plenty to drink, of course, over at the cooker as well. Pans out, need some water, tap doesn't work, go to your water bottle. Need to brush your teeth, go to your water bottle. Need to do some basic personal hygiene, go to your water bottle. So just one of these per person per day is all you need. I just recommend you have at least 3 days worth. Take the pressure off your local area, your city, your council, whatever, next time there's a problem, and do yourself a favor, keep a few of these. Don't open them and store them somewhere dark and cool. So briefly thinking about longer time periods for water, 3 weeks clearly is a bit of a challenge. I mean, you could do it with real hardship, but you would need a decent source of water. You're probably going to start thinking about using outdoor water for dirty things and for washing your body. But really, our solution that we're thinking about is to just collect rainwater and purify it properly and make proper drinking water from it. Now that's no mean task, and you can follow us on the channel as we go down that route, but I'm going to jump straight to like a full-on long-term 3-year type solution when it comes to water next. But certainly that 3 days is a fantastic thing to have under our belt. So when the power goes off, obviously one of the things that's going to go off is your refrigerator. And that actually is not a problem. Keep the door closed, and any sensible refrigerator and the freezer will keep the food cold for several hours. When we get to 3 days, we've got other considerations. This thing becomes a priority. But for your 3-hour drill, just don't worry about the refrigerator. Everything will be cool. So another thing with the power, of course, is it might well take out the interwebs. God forbid we can live without the interwebs. So one simple solution to that, here what you see on the left-hand side is part of my router and modem setup, and on the right is just a simple, uninterruptible power supply. This is a very cheap one off Amazon, and that's immediately taken over, switch to battery mode, and will hold my interwebs up for a few hours. So if interwebs is important to you when you don't have power, consider that. So here I am with a water pump, which is another thing that might go off when your power goes off, unless you have some sort of uninterruptible power supply protection. So bear that in mind. You might well lose significant amount of water services in a power cut. Does that matter? How long does it matter for? They're the sort of questions to be answering. The path I'm walking right now only exists because of my good friend and CEO of Game Dev TV, Rick Davidson. So thanks, Rick, and thank you for telling me that I should be fixing my roof when the sun is shining. So this, even though the pandemic has settled down, is the time to think about what can go wrong next. And let's at least be prepared for 3 days, if not a longer time frame. Now, we have set ourselves some pretty ambitious goals of being fully independent in food, energy and water for 3 years. And frankly, we don't know if we'll make it, but I'll tell you what, the journey from here to there is going to be a lot of fun. We've already learned so much and met so many interesting people that we're definitely going to continue. So do subscribe, do engage in the comments, and I can't wait to hear what your ambitions are and to learn with you. See you soon.